The next day, Dren was dragged into the Whispering Glade. The glade was damp and cool, the air thick with the scent of wet leaves and soil. Rain clung to the canopy overhead, dripping steadily onto the moss below. The storm had left its mark. Branches hung low, heavy with water, and the clearing felt hollowed out, like the world had been emptied of something vital. Dren knelt in the circle at the heart of the glade, arms bound behind his back. The ropes gnawed at his wrists, the skin raw and inflamed. His head hung low, hair matted to his face, droplets still falling from the ends. He looked smaller like this, slumped, trembling, alone in the circle where I'd seen that old warden stab herself in the heart. The crackle of bonfires only sharpened the silence. The wardens stood in a half ring around the circle. Their sodden kimonos clung to their limbs, their bug-eyed faces glinting faintly in the firelight. No one moved. No one spoke. The glade had become a stage, and everyone here knew their role. To watch. To bear witness. I stood near the edge, shivering beneath my cloak. The cold morning air crept through the fabric, but it wasn't only the chill that made me tremble. Something twisted in my stomach, tight and sharp, like a knot I couldn't undo. I wondered, was this what guilt felt like? Then the wardens shifted. A gust of wind blew through the trees. Azhûra had arrived. She stepped from the shadows, her robes catching the firelight, dark and fluid, trailing behind her like a tide of blackened blood. Her presence rippled through the glade. Even the trees seemed to hold their breath. She moved like a predator, slow, silent, and certain. Her hands cradling something that shimmered in the light. A dream catcher. Its dark, shadowy webbing writhed as she moved, beads of bone and glass clinking softly. Black feathers swayed at its base, caught in a breeze that didn't exist. Carrying the dream catcher, Azhûra stepped into the circle. Her gaze swept over the wardens, and every head bowed in unison. I lowered mine, reluctantly, eyes falling to the wet grass before me. Careful, I glanced up as she stopped before Dren. He didn't move.
Dren Erisith,
she said.
Do you know what this is?
She lifted the dreamcatcher. The firelight caught on its webbing, which coiled faintly in her hands, as if alive.
It is called the Hathar Akir, crafted long ago by the Morga of Screech, a people haunted by terrible dreams. They saw visions of their sylvan lands in flames, omens of the coming age of ash, so they made this to trap their nightmares, and it worked. To this day, it holds the terror of their entire people, all their fear, all their pain, bound into this single ward.
She turned it slightly, letting its shadow fall across Dren.
It holds the last dreams of a dying age, and today, it will serve as a lesson.
She lowered it over his head. The feathers brushed his hair.
Dren Erisith,
she said again, harsher now.
You will understand what it means to betray your lady.
And then, with slow precision, she slipped the dreamcatcher down around his neck. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the web pulsed. Dren's breathing changed, shallow then sharp. His shoulders tensed. A tremble crawled through him, rising like something waking in his bones. His face twisted a fraction, as if about to whimper, then froze, every muscle locking tight, like some unspeakable horror had just opened behind his eyes. Then his body convulsed, jerking so hard his knees left the ground. A scream tore from him, raw, broken, thick with terror. Not a cry of pain, but of something deeper, a soul coming undone. It split the glade like a crack in the world, clawing at the trees like it meant to rip the forest down. The light of the bonfires dimmed. The shadows of the whispering glade thickened. The dreamcatcher pulsed again. Dren thrashed against the ropes, mouth stretched wide. Another scream, frenzied, helpless, like he was falling and couldn't stop. I flinched. My arms tightened around myself. I couldn't look away. The feathers at the base of the dreamcatcher twisted and curled as though feeding on the old assassin's terror. And still the warden stood, and still Azhûra watched. And finally, her voice, cold and clean.
Enough!
She reached down and slipped the dreamcatcher from around his neck. The webbing sagged, the feathers stilled. Dren collapsed forward, limp, unmoving. I didn't breathe. I didn't dare to. 2 wardens stepped forward. They hauled Dren up like a rag doll. His head lolled. His mouth hung open. His eyes were open too, but there was nothing in them anymore. They dragged him away, and still I stood there, rooted to the ground, my legs cold, my hands numb. I looked at Azhûra. She hadn't flinched. Her eyes, cold, wide, empty, had watched Dren without a flicker of remorse, as if his screams had meant nothing, as if the sound of him breaking wasn't even worth noticing. I'd heard stories about the way she dealt with betrayal, like that tale Azhûra had told me, the one about the Hanzir and his spine. I'd been warned that Azhûra could be merciless when angered, but I'd never seen it. Not until now. She wasn't just powerful, she was ruthless. And I had put Dren directly in her path.
Videji,
Came a rough, sharp voice. I flinched. It was Aura, the one from the House of Tainted Virtue, one of Azhûra's companions. She stood a few paces away, heavily built, her bald head slick with rain, her single braid clinging to her shoulder like a soaked rope. Her face, scarred and unreadable, was as hard as ever.
Azhûra wants to speak with you,
She said, nodding towards the inner circle. My stomach twisted. Where Dren had been tortured, Azhûra now stood, alone, motionless, her gaze fixed in my direction.
Now,
Aura added, and turned without waiting for a response, her boots crushing the grass beneath them. I looked around for an excuse to linger, to breathe, but the other wardens were already dispersing, silent, orderly, heads bowed. No one looked at me. No one spoke. I was alone. I turned toward the heart of the glade, toward Azhûra. Our eyes locked and the distance between us felt warped, the world narrowing around her. Azhûra didn't move, didn't speak, didn't need to. Her gaze pulled at me, quiet and relentless. It was as if the rest of the glade vanished. Every breath of the world dissolved into her, and her alone. I took one step, then another. My legs felt wrong, hollow. What did she want? Was this about Dren? Or worse, what if Delara had betrayed me? What if Azhûra knew what I knew about the sealed garden and about the shrine of Lakash, about my questions? Each thought hit harder than the last. Azhûra didn't flinch as I approached. Her dark face was calm, serene even, but her bright, shining eyes looked as though they saw everything.
Come closer, child,
she said, her voice eerily sweet. I obeyed, closing the final distance between us. I stopped a few feet away, my body numb.
What were you doing with Dren Erisith last night?
I hesitated, scrambling for an answer. He seemed troubled. I thought I could help.
Are you lying to me, child?
Azhûra's eyes fixed on mine, steady and unblinking, like they meant to peel the truth straight from my bones. No, fine. Yes, I admitted, my voice faltering.
Warden Ezra tells me you were pushing him to talk, that you appeared to be searching for something. Something buried in his treacherous mind. Something about me. Why? Don't you trust me, child?
Of course I trust you.
Is that so?
I do.
What were you doing at the Tower of Slumber? You were seen going there with Warden Delara weeks ago, then again yesterday, alone before meeting Erisith.
Gods, was there nothing this damn witch didn't already know? My heart beat faster. I couldn't tell her the truth. She could not know about the faceless voice, so what could I say? I remembered what Azhûra had told her companions at the House of Tainted Virtue. That she'd asked Sench about me. Azhûra probably knew about that too. Right. So I figured I'd better stick to the same lie Sench had told Azhûra. I've been having nightmares, I said. About the night I came here. About my eye. Azhûra said nothing. She only watched me. I suppose I never quite got past it, I continued. I understood why it had to be done. The gods demand it. But some nights, it still hurts. It still haunts me, I suppose. So I sought out Sench.
The druid's presence in the Forbidden Temple is a secret. How did you learn of him?
Delara told me about him, and I made her take me to him.
And Erisith? What's your explanation there? Why did you ply him with drink?
This time I had no answer. I lowered my gaze, the blood roaring in my ears. I searched wildly for words to say, some lie I could pass off that would be believable. But no lies came.
You do not trust me, child. That is a shame.
I'm sorry, I whispered. Gods, what was she going to do to me?
Why are you afraid?
She asked.
Look at me.
I looked up. Her gaze pinned me in place like a nail.
You are safe here, Emilia. No matter what lies you've been told, whatever evil tongues have whispered in the dark, you are under my protection. That means everything. No harm will befall you. Do you understand?
Her voice was so soft, almost intimate.
My wish is that you accept my offer, that you become my successor. You will sit at my side while I live, and when I pass into the arms of Lejena's soft embrace, You will wield the fang of Zarraven and take my place at the Veiled Council. That is my desire, because it is the will of the gods. Nothing more, nothing less. So tell me, my child, why would I ever wish you harm?
Her words were so soothing I almost believed them. Oh, how I wanted to believe. But then I remembered Dren's screams, the dream catcher pulsing around his neck, the cold in Azhûra's eyes as she watched him suffer. She could play the part of the caring mother all she wanted. Today I had seen her heart, and it was foul. Who was Azhûra? I asked, sharpening my voice. Azhûra's eyes darkened. The temperature in the glade seemed to drop.
The instigator,
she said at last, her voice like frost.
Was a child playing with fire. Her recklessness nearly destroyed everything I've worked to build. The death of the Triumvirate, freedom, peace. The instigator risked it all for her own selfish ambitions.
Some say that's not true, I countered.
Some? You mean Eriseth?
He said Azhûra was a hero.
A hero? No, child. The instigator was a fool, and now she and all her reckless rebels have paid the price.
Her gaze sharpened.
Do not trust the words of the Hanzira, child. Their minds are small, simple. They cannot comprehend the complexity of the burdens the Sayashi carry, the sacrifices we make. In Loch Lelesh, we've always known the superiority of the female sex. Our wisdom, our will. Eriseth was once a useful tool despite his sex. Now he is a drunk and a madman. Stay away from him. Do you understand?
What will happen to him? I asked.
He will remain in the lower dungeons for the time being. Do not concern yourself with him any further.
And just like that, she turned and walked away, her robes trailing through the soaked leaves, insects scattering and skittering along her feet as she passed. I stood there, trembling in the damp air. She had told me to stay away from Dren, and yet, as she disappeared into the trees, all I could think about was how I wanted to go see Dren. Not to make him talk, not this time. This time I wanted to see him for an entirely different reason. The entrance to the dungeons lay on the third terrace. Crumbling stone walls hunched around a gaping maw that sank into darkness. What had once been a proper gatehouse now leaned at a crooked angle, its roof split and sagging beneath the weight of a fallen tree. I approached slowly, glancing over my shoulder as I went, half expecting eyes to be watching from the shadows. The fallen trunk was immense, ancient beyond counting, its bark swollen and split, roots knotted through the stone like grasping fingers. Beetles crawled through the cracks in the masonry, and pale things stirred in the rot-packed soil. Keeping low, I slipped beneath this sagging lintel and onto the stairs. They wound downward in a tight, uneven spiral, worn slick by centuries of moisture. The light thinned with each step, the air growing heavier. By the time I reached the bottom, the stench of rot hit me like a wall. I gagged, my knees buckling, bile pressing at the back of my throat. Gods, were they boiling sewage down here? The atmosphere was positively revolting. But I had come for a reason. Despite every fibre of my being screaming for me to turn and leave, I swallowed hard and pushed onward. The stone beneath my feet was slick with moisture, veined with pale, sickly growths that squelched when I shifted my weight. Glowing moss clung to the walls, casting a foul green light that made the shadows quiver. Insects skittered across the ceiling in erratic bursts, their translucent bodies catching the light like shards of stained glass. One wall had split open, and from the crack seeped a thick amber resin that pooled across the floor. My footsteps echoed as I pressed on, the patches of glow moss too few and too far apart to hold back the dark. Along the walls, shapes emerged, skeletons, shackled in place and left to rot where they hung. I slowed, counting my steps without meaning to. When I reached his cell, I stopped. Dren hung in the gloom, chained to the wall. His arms were stretched above him, iron biting into his wrists, forcing his shoulders into cruel, unnatural angles. His head drooped forward, chin pressed to his chest, hair matted in lank strands over his face. On a good day, he looked half dead. Today, well, at first glance I'd taken him for one of the skeletons. Dren. My voice came out feeble, swallowed by the thick air. His head tilted, then a hoarse sound rasped out of him.
Oh, it's you. Come to gloat.
No. I stepped closer, gripping the bars. I came to...
Save it.
His head snapped up, bloodshot eyes locking onto mine. His lip curled, revealing those jagged, inhuman teeth.
Save your apologies, Lady Lavenhugel. Whatever you've come to say, take it with you and leave.
I didn't mean for this to happen, I said, a tremble in my voice.
Fucking hell, girl, don't insult me.
I'm sorry.
Sorry?
The chains groaned as he shifted, muscles pulling against the iron.
You're sorry. Brilliant. I'll be sure to tell that to the scars she carved into my soul. Do you understand what that was like? To have the Azhûra wrapped around me like that? No, of course you don't. You don't know shit about misery. Sayash.
I flinched, but I didn't look away. I didn't realize. I didn't think.
Oh, yes, you did.
His rage sharpened.
You thought you'd get old Dren drunk, and he'd just spill his secrets for you like a good little puppet. That's what you thought.
His voice cracked. The chains rattled as his shoulders twisted, his face contorting in agony.
You thought. You acted. And now I'm here. Hope it was worth it.
I needed to know. About her. About what she's planning. I thought... I hoped you could help me.
Help you?
He spat blood onto the floor.
Gods help you if you ever come asking for my help again. Understood?
I stood frozen. My throat tightened, and something cold slid down through my ribs, sharp as a blade. I lowered my head to the floor. Understood, I whispered.
Good. Now piss off. As you can see, I'm mighty busy at the moment. And your presence, it is a fucking disturbance.